Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon to our friends on the East Coast. I'm Todd Obert from Productive. Very happy today to have Larry Wilson and Brett Boletto of Cylfare. And we're going to be talking about managing M365 threats and what's happening in the threat landscape there and how to optimize your protection with mXDR from Cylfare. So if you've been to ours webinars in the past, you know how we do it. We meet productive in 1 minute. We very appropriately get me off the microphone quickly so you guys can enjoy the real content. Today, we're turning it over to Larry, and here's some of the stuff that we're going to roll through in the presentation. Feel free to ask questions throughout. Utilize the chat feature. We'll keep it interactive, and we will have you on your way by 11:30 Central. But first, let's meet Productive Corporation. Well, who is Productive? Well, even though you're muted, I'm very glad you asked. Productive Corporation helps improve the security posture of mid-sized companies. We offer specialized expertise. We help you understand your overall security needs. We also implement, test, and optimize all the products we sell. We start on the front end with security assessments. We can do MDR implementation. We can help you with next-gen firewall, mail, and web security. We also produce a lot of content. This is one of the vehicles that we use is doing webinars for our customers. You can find all the stuff we do at productivecorp.com/solving security. The bottom line is we can help you, whether that's assessment, implementation, licensing, or security services. Just send us an email, old school, help@productivecorp.com. It goes to all the key guys. We make sure to respond in a timely manner. So whatever you need, we will try to be there to help. So here we are. Like I said, you are at the M365 Threats and how to improve your security posture, how to optimize with mXDR from Cylfare. And the guy who's going to be talking to us about that today is Larry Wilson of Cylfare. I'm turning over the reins to Larry. So Larry, let me know when you're ready to rock. And we hope you're going. Larry is in Georgia. He got hit a little bit the last run. Brett shared with me he had to work on the generator, so I'm sure if inclement weather happens during this webinar, he'll just boot up the generator and keep on rolling. Exactly. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Larry Wilson. Larry?
Hi, thank you. Appreciate the intro. And I think number one, am I showing the proper screen?
Yes, I can see the Cylfare offering is the slide you're showing. It's not in presentation mode, but it's...
okay, bear with me a second. Let me fix that.
Yep.
And while Larry does that, I'll go ahead and just introduce myself as well. My name is Brett Boletto, one of the senior account managers here who supports a large portion of the United States. Wanted to thank our friends at the Productive Corp for having us here. As Todd had mentioned, Larry is our senior security solutions engineer for our channel team. And Larry, do you just want me to cover the wheel real quick and then hand it off to you for the rest?
That would be perfect.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. So here at Cylfare, we are a top 20 global MSSP SOC as a service provider. So we play in a few different spaces specific to managed security solutions. So on the wheel here, you'll see what we have here to offer to high levels. So I'll start from the left, go to the right. So we provide managed XDR, managed SIM. We have managed EDR. We do vulnerability scanning, and then we have a few different cybersecurity services as well. So we are an open platform, so we're tool agnostic with over 150 plus different tool integrations. So we like to help you leverage tools that you have existing here is what already in place, or if you want us to do a fully managed or co-managed, we have a few different vendors that we use in that different kind of in those different realms. So that being said, I know we're going to focus on our managed XDR Office 365 offering. And with that being said, I'll go ahead and hand it off to you, Larry.
Thank you, Brett. So we'll talk a little bit about the kind of how we differentiate ourselves and how we provide a enterprise level SOC for customers that either don't want to or can't afford to do that themselves. So these are just some stats around our services. So the first one is playbook. So these are scenarios where we run a programmatic remediation service. So we see something come in, we run the playbook, and that is a very tunable playbook, but that's what runs against the detection to remediate the issue. So currently we're at 93% where we're doing this programmatic triage, so no human intervention required. The average time for a human to triage that minutes. For EDR, we're doing it in about 2 minutes, and for XDR services, about 12 minutes. And the average time is 3.63 minutes for remediation. The average steps in a playbook is about 175. Some of them are as many as 400. Some are fewer, but that's the average.
So that's 3 minutes from detection of the threat.
Yeah, so that for us, what that means is that we detected it, we investigated it, and we remediated it. So that's the total time it takes for us to fix the issue, not report it, but fix it.
Yeah, no, right. You fix it, and once it's fixed, then you can report it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, you just think about why was Office 365 a target? It's a huge threat landscape. There's about 1.3 million companies using Office 365. So a very large footprint. And, when you have that large of a footprint, you become a target. And that's kind of why people go after the Office 365 landscape. With phishing attacks, compromised credentials where they're stolen passwords, and you get open the door to your data. Even your trusted employees, make a mistake. They click on a URL that they shouldn't, or something like that. Ransomware is huge threat landscape because, once they get things encrypted, then you either pay or don't pay, but it still costs you a lot of money. And certainly data exfiltration, we can detect that. If we see a lot of files going out, we can flag that. In Microsoft security, it has tools built in. The problem is that not a lot of people actually look at what's happening. Having the 24/7 monitoring is huge when you're trying to keep things secure. And I actually did a search this morning, just real quick. This is on the first page of the search, regarding Microsoft Office 365. So you can see that it is a target not only by independent hackers, but by government actors. Recently the U.S. government got hacked. They got into the Office 365 environment. So why is it a ransomware target? Well, one is, again, the widespread adoption. So it's used by a diverse range of organizations, and there's integrated service. So you have Office 365, you have Azure AD, you have Entra ID. These are all doors or entry points for someone to get in and set up a ransomware infiltration. And certainly user behavior, the phishing scams, there's always that one person that looks suspicious. So getting credentials, once that happens, it's really a severe threat in what they can do moving forward in your organization.
Yeah, well, think about it too, Larry, right? We always talk about it. These guys only need to be right once. They're going across,
Correct.
They're sending messages to all your users, hundreds, thousands. And they can send a bunch of different stuff, and they only need to be right one time.
Yeah, and it's really amazing to look at the level of attempts that occur, and that's something we see very often, is that there's a constant bombardment on the Microsoft, deployment, and it's constant attention is needed. And to the complexity of the environment. So if you start looking into Microsoft solution and try to set up monitoring yourself, it gets very confusing because there's a lot of considerations around which license you have and what's possible with that particular license. So it's very confusing to set up. And, I think that's one of the reasons we brought this to market was, we can do it very quickly. We have a lot of experience and we get it done. And onboarding takes about 15 minutes. So some of the key features we have, and I'll show these in a moment, 54 well-defined use cases around both Office 365, Azure AD, and Entra ID. But we provide that 24/7 monitoring by a top 20 rated SOC. And we have, again, this says automatic, I like to say programmatic threat containment because that is tunable based on your desire. If you want, automatic containment, we can do that. If you want to say, send me a ticket, I'll look into it myself, we can do that as well. So we can do things like disable account, revoke sessions, disable users. Again, the deployment, 15 minutes, you give us an API key, you've got monitoring of your Office 365 environment. So we have full Microsoft threat detection, Entra ID, Azure AD, Office 365. We have customizable threat alerts, the incident response under 15 minutes, and that's an SLA. And we're constantly looking at, what new threats occur, what's in the wild. And, a lot of research goes into that to see what the latest threats are.
Hey, Larry?
Yeah.
Can you give me some insight on the customers that are on this product? I mean, which customers, are most of them letting Cylfare handle everything, or are there certain aspects where they want a little more control, or can you just give me some sense of that to the folks here?
Yeah, it does vary somewhat, but in general, we do an onboarding process where we work with the customer. There's constant communication, talking to customers about what they want to do, and maybe in the beginning they're not comfortable with automatic remediation, but as time goes forward and we prove our value, the other thing, one of the things that we are very focused on is true positives. Right now, we're running across our entire customer base about 97% true positives going to the customer. And I think it's a trust issue, right? In general, I would say 80% is automatic response in the things we can do there. And the other 20% maybe has some tuning, some variants on that, where they want to look at certain issues themselves. But you think of the Office 365, it's really an easy deployment, frictionless sale and implementation. But we can expand beyond that if desired. If they want a a holistic view of the network and everything in the network, we certainly can scale beyond Office 365.
Yeah, totally.
So I guess, why would a customer care about this? Well, one is peace of mind knowing that, we're looking at the entire Microsoft environment, not just 365, but Azure AD, Entra ID, things like that. The threat alerts are customizable. So I mentioned the playbook, and I'll show you one in a moment, but that playbook, we have standard playbooks, but if there's tuning needed in that playbook, we can do that for the customer. And another key thing is the API integration. So that's how we connect to Office 365 management, Entra ID, Azure AD. So we can do response actions, directly to those SaaS services. So this is the detections list for our offering currently. So right now at 54, constantly tuning, changing things, and adding to this. And I just highlighted some of them that are very common. The malicious URL click, and I'll show you kind of the flow of that here in a bit. Unusual volume of external file sharing, where you're seeing a lot of files going out somewhere maybe they shouldn't. And then logins outside the US. These are the ones we see most often. But all of these are detectable either through the Office 365 management, the Entra ID, or Azure AD. So this offering is a simplified version of our standard XDR service. Typically in an XDR service, whether we bring the XDR or you already have an existing tool, we can either bring the XDR, manage it, license it, do all of it, do everything. If you have something you like already, we can connect to it and still provide that 24/7 SOC service. But it's really to provide high value around Office 365, things like account takeovers, initial attempts around phishing and emails, business email compromises. And we'll investigate and respond with the basic actions of either disabling the user account, resetting the password, or sending a ticket to the person of interest. So what does it look like? I mean, how do we do this? This is a simplified version, but we use Google Chronicle as a SOAR. And we do response access from that SOAR. It has an API integration to Microsoft Entra ID, Azure Active Directory 365. We're getting data through the managed XDR, so it also has an API connecting to those services. It feeds the SOAR where we do response actions, and that in turn feeds our platform, which is Cylfare One. Think of it as a one-stop shop. It's a analytics and reporting platform where the end user would see all of the tickets, all of the alerts, status of the network, things of that nature. Any questions about the architecture and how we get information? Very well. Yeah, just think of the managed XDR as the source for data, and think of the SOAR as the response agent. So we're doing response from the SOAR, and that's where the playbooks exist.
So, Larry, you're getting, you see these threats happening. I mean, you get, Cylfare has their own database. Are you tying into other threat services, and are you getting knowledge across the mailboxes that you're managing, or?
Yeah, so we get threat information from various sources. We do our own internal research, but also we subscribe to services, with the latest threat update. So if something new is out there, we're going to, build a playbook around it, essentially.
Yeah, so you're doing that proactively, but so something comes in, we'll say something hits, there's activity that's suspicious but hasn't been identified as a threat, or it's kind of clear it's malicious, but you haven't seen it before. What happens then?
Yeah, so with the XDR service, we're looking at things holistically. In other words, we're not just looking at the data directly from Office 365 or Active Directory. Yeah. We're looking at how things are behaving, and part of the onboarding is a baselining of your network, where we kind of know what's normal. And then when we see things that are not, we see something new, we're going to investigate that and drive it to a conclusion as to whether it's malicious or not. So if all of a sudden you've got people trying to log in from San Diego, you don't have a presence there, or there are files going out to San Diego and you don't have a presence there, we're going to flag that. Does that make sense? Yeah,
totally, because it's what doesn't fit the profile of that user or their network, right? What is, because for somebody, if you have a presence in San Diego, it's totally normal.
Yeah, and we also have in our Cylfare One platform a customer knowledge base. So say you have someone who's traveling to, say, Germany next week, we can put that in the system. We'll see that login come and we'll record it, but we're not going to create a ticket because you told us it was going to happen.
Yep, exactly. That behavior then is consistent with what you guys are expecting.
Exactly. And say you have servers where maybe you're doing a scan or something like that. We can whitelist things that are normal, and we'll still record the incident. We just won't create tickets because you told us it was going to happen.
Okay. Cool. That's a good example. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. So this is a kind of a workflow for the SOC, and this is high level, but in this case, it's an alert received for a successful login outside the U.S. So first we're going to go to that customer knowledge base, right? We're going to check, okay, is this a known travel advisory? Is it in the system as whitelisted? And then we're going to look up the account in Azure AD, and we're going to do some response actions. So there's possible actions. We can revoke all of this user sessions. We can force a password update or reset the user to a temporary password. We can disable or lock the account or move that user to a specific group policy. And then we're going to check for duplicate open tickets. So if this is something that's part of another ticket, there's no reason for us to create another ticket to send, to create confusion. We're going to check for duplicates, and then we're going to escalate. So what does that look like? And this is another one with email integration, kind of the same workflow, but this is where they came in maybe through another Microsoft service and then kind of moved into the O365 environment. So this is just a general workflow, but this is what's actually happening with the programmatic response. So this is a user login failure playbook. So all of these are steps that occur in that programmatic response, where we're going to go through these, and it would take a human a lot of time to do this, and we do it programmatically, where we execute the steps every time consistently. And again, these steps are tunable based on the customer's requirements. But we're going to run it the same way every time, and that's the power of using the playbooks.
Hey, Larry, have you guys seen an instance? I mean, maybe, or has it been reported where the bad guys are figuring out some of the moves you do on the playbooks and trying to mimic it? Each time there's a new technique to stop somebody hacking and moving around, then the bad guys seem to figure out another way around it. Have you seen some of that where you've had to modify playbooks because the hackers are starting to get smart?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's some of the headlines I was reading today where they try picture where they're using different techniques to get into things like Enter ID or Azure AD and look legitimate by just a lot of different techniques. But we do adjust the playbooks. The playbooks get reviewed constantly, making sure we're on top of it. Yeah.
Yep.
So this is kind of from the XDR view of kind of some of the data we see, and we can drill down on any of this. So this is looking at your Office 365 environment, and it's really showing you what workloads are out there, the raw files being accessed, what operations are occurring, and then who's accessing the files. And this can get very granular. Our SOC analysts can dig down into this. Not something the end user would necessarily see, but this is what our SOC analysts use when they're investigating and threat hunting. So a very rich information that's available for our SOC analysts. So if we do escalate up to a ticket, this is kind of what it looks like. So this is a typical ticket coming from our SOC, and it's saying, okay, there is a user 01 at Cylfare.com, had unfamiliar sign-in properties. So here's what the SOC recommended. We block his IP, reset the user's password, or revoke their session. And again, that's a tunable response based on what the customer tells us they want to do. That's pretty much in a nutshell, how we provide the service and what goes in, from a data perspective, and what the output is from our SOC.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I like that reporting. How customizable is that reporting, by the way?
Yeah, it's very, very tunable from our perspective. In this particular platform, we can create custom reports. So if there's a lot of canned reports that are available, but if there's something a customer wants to see, we can create that report, and that's something our SOC team will do.
Yeah.
And you can have, yeah, it can be from an analyst view or from an executive view. It's whatever the customer wants.
Yeah. So once once an organization gets this mXDR for M365 rolling, tuned in, how much time are they going to need to spend with it? Are you guys going to be reaching out to them if they need something, or what's kind of the normal cadence?
Yeah, so there's an onboarding process that takes about 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, and it really depends on how much time the customer has to work with us. But for O365 XDR, it's literally we're up and running in 15 minutes and getting the detections. So it's very easy to do that. Now with more complex arrangements, we have to learn more. So we're meeting with the customer during onboarding, for a couple of weeks, getting information, and it's a two-way communication. And then we do what's called a baseline. So that usually takes about 4 to 6 weeks, where we're learning what's normal in the network, and really no customer involvement needed at that time. We're going to look at what comes in. We're going to weed out the false positives, and then we're going to be what we call run mode, where things that are truly of concern get escalated to the customer. That could be, okay, we saw it, we remediated it, it's closed, but here's the ticket saying we found it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or we send the ticket to a third party or to the customer directly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, thanks, Larry, and thanks, Brett. I mean, this is great stuff, and if you haven't investigated, or if our guys haven't talked to you about Cylfare, take some time to think about it, because they really have a top-notch organization and a tier one solution that all aspects of what they offer really does help strengthen your overall security posture. So thank you so much for your time today, Larry, Brett, and thank you, everybody out in the audience, for taking the time. We really appreciate it.